This episode was brought to you by Pentester Academy, the leader in online cybersecurity education. Join over 10,000 professionals from 90 countries to learn security online. I'm Marley Oxenome here at Securing Hardware in San Francisco, and I'm talking with some of the trainers that are here today. Would you mind introducing yourself and what you do for us?
Hi, I'm Joe FitzPatrick. I'm teaching two classes here back-to-back, a beginner and advanced class on exploiting and attacking embedded systems and IoT devices.
Very cool. Would you tell me more about your classes?
Yeah, so the first couple of days we approach an embedded device and we kind of assume we don't know anything about it. We look at it, we find ways in using a serial console, we find ways of dumping the firmware off of it, and we find ways of using debug features to control what executes on the device. The advanced class, we go a little bit deeper. What happens if we have something that's kind of non-standard? What happens if we have a device that's not documented? How do we approach these black box scenarios?
Okay, very interesting. And I was curious, why has IoT and embedded system security become so important?
Well, we're in a point in time where it's so inexpensive to have a device that's not only very capable and programmable, but also very small and inexpensive and network connected, or even 4G, like a cellular connected. So you can have a connected device anywhere for dollars instead of hundreds of dollars or thousands of dollars as you did in the past. Once this happens, suddenly we have potentially malicious devices everywhere. If we can exploit one of these devices, we can have an exploited device sitting in a trash can on the street. We can have an exploited device sitting in your briefcase in the lobby of a hotel. Anywhere you can fit, a couple square inches and a battery, you can fit a malicious device.
Got it. Okay. And as many attacks require physical access to a system, do you find that they're less of a concern?
Well, what I focus on in my classes is, we're learning about what you can do with physical access. And there's two ways this goes. One is what is physical access today could very well be remote access tomorrow. As things get integrated into fewer devices, you might have a software means of accessing something that today you have to use physical wires to connect to. The second is, if you have the ability to find one copy of one piece of hardware and you get that, you exploit it, you do something, you get the firmware off of it, you have a whole lot more information now on this device. If you took a purely software, purely network, or purely remote approach, you would be poking at a black box over a network. So the physical access gives you information that informs your software attack.
Got it. Okay. And so I was curious, for a beginner, what hardware would you recommend to get started with IoT security?
Well, it's pretty interesting. The vast majority of things that I tinker with come down to a handful of tools. I have a USB to serial adapter because almost everything speaks some sort of serial protocol. I have a general purpose high-speed serial protocol speaker. It's called an FT232H board. The ones I prefer are made by Adafruit. They're $15 for a board that can speak JTAG and SPI and I2C. And then the last thing is a logic analyzer. The ones I use in my class are Salier logic analyzers. For my personal use, I use a couple off-brand ones with SIGROC, which is an open source logic analyzer software. These are really powerful for anywhere from $10 to $500. You can have very high-speed visibility into what signals are doing on a board. This used to cost $10,000 or more 10 years ago.
Nice. Okay. And would you recommend any books or online resources to someone to learn more about hardware debugging?
I get that question a lot, and I don't have a good answer yet. There are a lot of blogs that people post. What I really, really like the most is you have people who are experienced in software security or even experienced in hardware but not hardware security, and they approach a problem, they approach an IoT device, and they're like, hey, I'm going to take this device apart and figure it out. And they blog it. And so you see every month there's someone else who's posted, hey, this is my attack on this hardware device. And they all take different approaches. And they all kind of get to the same point. Like, look back, this was kind of difficult, but once I figured out how to do it, it's actually really easy. And I really appreciate seeing those different perspectives on the same task.
Very cool. Okay. And what is the most interesting attack that you've demonstrated in class?
My favorite, and actually, I chose the target in my class about this. One of the routers that I use in my class has a bunch of LEDs on the front of it. And what I discovered as I was looking up the details of that chip is that you can reconfigure those LEDs to have a different purpose. So when people see pictures of doing JTAG debugging with clipping wires to LEDs, they're very confused. But it really works because we can go and change some settings on the board and make it so those pins are actually JTAG pins, and I can actually go and halt the CPU and modify memory by clipping wires to LED pins.
Wow, that's awesome. Okay, and lastly, what made you interested in hardware security?
My background is electrical engineering. I worked for a chip manufacturer for 8 years doing silicon debug and hardware security testing. So I'm really into the hardware side of things, and the security kind of filled in after that as I started poking at the product security where I used to work. And I transitioned that into training. And so this month is 5 years that I've been doing independent training in hardware security. So.
Wonderful. Thank you so much, Joe. I appreciate it.
Thanks for your time.
This episode was brought to you by Pentester Academy, the leader in online cybersecurity education. Join over 10,000 professionals from 90 countries to learn security online.